So basically in February of 2021, basically from quarantine starting into 2021, I was just very depressed. And I always thought I knew how to be alone and be by myself. And I truly didn't. And I think on a subconscious level, I knew that, but I wasn't wanting to admit it. So instead of just trying to use that time to learn to like love myself and not need outside validation, I was seeking validation elsewhere. And previously in the past, I was get that validation from comedy. But now that I've lost that, I no longer know, I didn't have an outlet. So I was like using like dating and stuff as that outlet. And basically like, I don't handle rejection well. And like, I didn't get depressed and want to kill myself because of dating woes. I have always been a depressed person. I've always battled with depression. And a lot of people think you go through depression and then you're cured and it never happens again. When in actuality, I feel like depression just goes in remission and then comes back at a different time. And a lot of people don't think that. And they think, oh, well, you're broken. And it's just like, no, depression never goes away.
Yeah.
Bro, you came off drugs too. Like, all of us did. For people that were doing stand-up as much as we were. Like,
it was a drug.
You were getting this massive amount of endorphins being released every night to then be like, hey, you'll be good. And also, you can't be around anybody.
Yeah.
And
also, DoorDash might kill you.
Yeah. So it was just for anyone that didn't do stand-up at the time, like the pandemic sucked.
Yeah.
Like in general, but to like also be going through withdrawal to start.
Yeah. And also another thing as well, what really drove me into depression was not only that, but then also stand up still to this day feels like the only thing I'm good at. Mm-hmm. So it's like the only thing that I felt like I brought value and worth to the world was now gone. And I truly felt like I'm worthless. I have no value. There's no purpose of me being in this world. And I was just already, because of comedy was what brought me to my lowest. Like not having it brought me to my lowest, and just the dating stuff was just the straw that broke the camel's back. Like it wasn't, no one I was seeing caused the breakdown. I think it was just, I was looking for an excuse to like, it was basically like there's already a pile that's about to fall and a bird lands on it.
Oh, absolutely.
The bird is not the reason why the landslide happened. It was already going to happen.
But if you want to put the name of that bird in the show notes for this episode, we can do that.
But yeah, I got rejected, and it was the straw that broke the camel's back. And it sucks that that's what it is, because I hate looking back at it. At first I would look back and I'm like, really? I almost killed myself because of this? And it's just like, no, I was already wanting to kill myself. That
was the peak. That was the trigger.
Yeah, it was the peak. It was very much just the levee burst. And I had a breakdown. I had a very terrible breakdown that night. It was super late at night. I had like one of those fitness bands and tried to hang it on my door to hang myself, and then learned that stretchy things don't make good hanging rope.
How did I not know this?
That's why they're called resistance bands, by the way.
Like, let me tell you, nothing hurts more than when you like jump to hang yourself
and you fail
and
at
you
it.
hit the floor.
I didn't know you actually attempted.
I attempted because before doing that, I even tried like punching my head really hard and slamming my head against the walls, and I was like, this hurts. And then I grabbed the kitchen knife, and then I thought, no, that also seems like it hurts. So then I thought hanging is the solution.
Wait, so how did you even do this?
The hanging. So basically I took the resistance band and like put it on the top of the door and then closed it on it.
This is like the most Seattle way of killing yourself. I used a resistance band to hang myself.
Yeah, so then that way when they found my body, they're like, oh, but he gets cardio in.
I was in all Patagonia.
And I just put it on the door, closed the door tight, because I would do that to do like a back exercise. So then they're like, that's what I'm gonna do. But I did it the opposite way, where the handles were at the top and it was like the rest of the rope here. And like it failed. And then that's when I really started to break down, because it was like, it's like, to be honest, it wasn't that I wanted to die. I just didn't want to exist anymore.
When you were saying that, I had that mental image of that stay at home thing that everybody was tagging on Instagram.
Jesus Christ.
I'm sorry.
I mean, yeah, it was like I should have been outside. Yeah. But I didn't want to exist anymore because existing hurt more than any of the pain I was trying to give myself. And killing myself just seemed like the solution to not having it. Because it was not only like I was sad and I lost that thing, but at that time, we had no idea when things would go back to normal. Mm-hmm. And that uncertainty just made things so hard for me. It felt like I don't have purpose anymore and I didn't want to be around. So that's why I wanted to kill myself. And after I failed the attempt, I called the National Suicide Lifeline, that now 998, that's what you dial.
Is it 988?
988.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Giving people the wrong fucking number.
Yeah, I'm gonna have someone calling Wendy's on accident. I want to kill myself. Like, hey, we got spicy nugs. Like,
Chris has the worst suicide advice. Resistance bands, wrong number. Jesus
how to
Christ.
do it poorly.
But yeah, I called and the operator, like, I'm gonna be honest, when I called the hotline, I thought the hotline was bullshit. I didn't think it was gonna help me at all. I didn't think calling a hotline was gonna help. I thought, like, I'm gonna call this, but I'm still gonna want to kill myself. And the operator talked to me, and I could tell the operator was a black woman. I could just tell by her name and also just the way she spoke. But
what do you mean by that? Sorry, go on. Keep
her
going.
name was Alyssa.
Yeah, that therapy voice.
No, it's just like I've met aunties before, but and she like at a time when I couldn't talk to my therapist because it was fucking late. And even then, I was just so far gone that I wasn't even confident. I wasn't seeing my therapist because I knew, like when you're depressed and you want to kill yourself, you know that getting help is easy.
There's like a wall between you and yourself, too.
But where you kind of feel like I don't want to help myself because I feel like I deserve this pain. And that's why I didn't reach out to friends. No one knew, and I didn't want anyone to know. Because one, I was afraid of telling someone, and I was going to come off as a burden. But then also two, I was just like, I deserve this pain. And maybe if I don't do it, like I was more scared of getting better and having to exist than I was more scared of that than killing myself.
Well, they say too, the people that don't talk about it are way more likely to do it. So like I was suicidal. That's what got me into comedy, actually. Like had I not started doing stand-up, I think I probably would have killed myself.
Honestly, stand-up.
And it makes me want to kill myself just as much. So it's
stand-up coming back. Like, I know it's cheesy to say where like comedy saved my life or people like hip-hop saved my life. Like, comedy really did save my life. And when it came back, I was so happy. But I still, to this day, I'm scared. What if comedy goes away again? Like, what am I going to do?
We'll do this podcast. And you can fucking call your friends this time.
Let me raid your Twitch channel. There you go.
But like, yeah, anyway, I'll wrap this up. But like, called the suicide hotline. She helped me out because it felt like I was really being heard and listened to. And like, she didn't have really, like, she had advice, but like at the end of the day, like I wasn't being presented solutions. I wasn't being told anything that was radically different than if I would have approached a friend. But it was just, it's hard to explain. It was what I needed. And she, like, I know I do it in my bit, but she really did at the end, like, ask, like, what are your plans? Like,
Taco Bell?
And I told her Taco Bell, and she got more concerned. But then I remember a week later, I had another breakdown. I wanted to kill myself again. I didn't try to hang.
You're like, this one.
I was like, let me call, but I was like, I'm going to call a different hotline. Like, I want to evaluate different ones. And the second hotline I called was like religiously run. And a dude answered, and I could tell he was a boomer because like when I was talking about my depression and my woes, he was like telling me to suck it up. And then I chose to live to spite that man. I was like, you know what, Frederick? Fuck yourself.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I am going to live just to spite you. So I highly recommend call the National Lifeline. Any others, like that religious run suicide hotline that guy fucking sucked. Don't do that. But yeah, I really didn't want to live. And thankfully right now, I have purpose. I want to live. There's things I want to see through, But I think when we talk about mental health and stuff, we talk about, oh, get through your depression. And we talk about it from a tone of like, you're going to get cured and it goes away forever. When in actuality, it's like, you're going to get through this now, but it will come back.
It can be situational, but depression is not being sad. It's a chemical imbalance that causes, like, I don't know if we'll have time for the full story.
Yeah, you go into your thing. I'm done.
Fiance, but yeah, I lost my partner back in 2018 from what is suicide, but he went missing. He was never found, and I'm just gonna go because the story I want to talk about is what I'm dealing with now. But like, I did not know he was suicidal. Like, he literally called me one day after he had like a rough night, went to bed early, and was like, I tried to kill myself last night. And I was like, the fuck? And he's like, I'm going to a hospital right now and I won't be able to talk to you till Monday. I was like, that's what I got. And we were like, what? We never fought anything. And so I showed up because he was in the military. He was at Fort Lewis, picked him up. He was a completely different person. It's like I didn't even recognize him. And so for the whole week, I was like trying to babysit him and like make him feel better. I took him to like Snoqualmie Falls. We went on hikes, went to the aquarium. It was like, like taking care of a child almost. Like, do you want to get ice cream? You know, like. And then finally the day before he went missing, I was like, hey, I can't make it up to you. Like, I got to get my car fixed, blah, blah, blah. And he lived 3 hours up north. He goes, totally fine. Like, we'll just hang out tomorrow night. And we're sending each other memes. And I still have the text messages. And during that time, he was writing a suicide note. And then the next day I got the call that he didn't show up to work. And that was a whole mess. Like, he went missing. The military didn't give a fuck about him. I posted on Facebook, got 35,000 shares. I had people calling me a murderer, blaming death. I got doxxed at work for it. It was the worst fucking months of my life because I was like, I don't know what to do. And I don't know who to go to. And I also have dealt with suicidal ideation. So I was also just angry at myself that I was not there that night. And I always feel guilty about that, even though I know it's not my fault. But I read his note. And I was reading it and I was like, man, this is not John. I still have the note and I read it sometimes. I'm like, that's not fucking, that John would have never said that shit. Like, that was a fucking disease that took over him. And that's the only reason why I've been able to survive the worst parts of my life, is because I realized that this was not him that did this. And you know, when you are suicidal, when you're at your lowest,
you're not you.
It's foggy. Like, people will tell you like, no, it's okay, you're loved, but like, you don't fucking, there's a wall between you and that.
I started talking to myself like in my head when I was at like my lowest. It was like, it was so bad that it was sort of like almost like I could see like a disconnect between who I am now versus like the thing that was like sort of controlling me.
Yeah.
And I still talk to those voices all the time, guys, but like it was seriously, it got that like disassociated.
Oh, absolutely. And but the thing is what I want to talk about now is I had a relapse with suicide just a few months ago.
Oh shit.
Because what had happened is that I was so used to just kind of being miserable. Because I was like, you know, I lost what I still believe was my soulmate. And I still, like, even though, like, I've moved on, I've dated, blah, blah, like, he was a part of me that I don't have anymore. And so when I got my job and had that talk with my boss and started working for people, saw value in me, things started to change. Like, I started making, like, oh, wow, I don't have to live paycheck to paycheck now. And I'm doing healthier and blah, blah. But that made me so fucking depressed. Because I was like, I am so used to being miserable that now things are good or happening to me, it's giving me anxiety. Like, you don't know
how to handle the happiness.
I don't, and telling people that, they would laugh at me. Like, oh, I'm sorry that your life is so good you can't handle it. I'm like, you have no idea how much of a struggle this is.
Yeah, because you start to believe it's not going to last long.
Or something bad needs to happen. Like, I have to have, like, there's no way I deserve all this. I've cried on stream about it because I'm like, it just, I can't handle it. And, you know, I tried dating earlier this year, and one of my issues getting into a relationship is that I could not accept love from another person. Like, I still had things from my last relationship I had to work through. And so now I go to therapy and I'm like medicated. I make a joke about OCD. I don't know if you've seen it, where I'm like where she's like, how's the OCD medication working for you? And I go, well, I'm just cleaning slower now, you know, like, but
I saw that.
Like me, it's like I still struggle with it. Like, the other day, somebody, I don't know if you saw my story, somebody broke my car. Like, I don't know if you parked in that church truck, you can see my little duct tape mirror, and like my car's all smashed. And I was like, dude, that's awful. But in my head, it was like a relief. I was like, I just need something bad to happen because I am I have so much anxiety about things being good. And like people don't realize that. They look at celebrities or people who are happy and they go, how did Anthony Bourdain take their life or blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you have no idea what people are struggling with. And it's the same thing. It's a wall. It's like anyone who had my life would be in a better place, but they don't deal with the chemical imbalance of mental illness that blocks it from you.
Yeah.
And so I go back and I read that note from John and I understand it now. Yeah. I didn't understand it years ago because I was in the same mindset. And John had a really good life with me. Like we were a great couple. He had a good job. But he still took his life. And I never understood why. And now that I'm in the same boat as him, I understand it.
And that's the thing when people are like, oh, but they were so loved and all that. You can literally have everything. And still, like, for example, people, like, when I was doing the Seattle Times story, the reporter asked me, like, about, like, Robin Williams and Jack Knight. And I told him, like, Robin Williams hit comics a lot because we saw that and realized, oh, you mean I could literally accomplish everything and still not escape the depression that I have? Like, that's not going to bring me the happiness. And that's why, like, when people list these, like, requirements of, like, oh, but they had this and they had that and they had that, like, none of that shit actually
matters.
Dude,
because
you can have money, you can have the job, you can have the bookings, but the second you go to your room,
Britney Spears' Lucky, one of the greatest songs of all time, talks about it. Like, it's true. It's like, yeah, because we were the same way too. Like, we've seen people we admire take their lives and we struggled to understand it. And John was one of those people. And now that I'm becoming someone I would admire, my younger self would be admiring that now. I struggle more now than I did when I was sad because I was just so used to it, you know? And now I'm like, so something is wrong with me.
Yeah.
You know?
You can be loved, but if you can be a very loved person, but if you don't have love for yourself, none of that shit matters. Because it's about accepting that love. And if you won't even accept love from yourself, you're not going to accept it from anyone else who's trying to reach out and help you.
And all those external validations, like do you ever look back at like 3 years, 4 years at what you were doing and like see how much you've grown now? Like what you were talking about with sets and shit.
Yeah.
Like you're always looking forward in entertainment. Like, oh, what have I not done? Or these other people, what have they done? But you rarely look back and be like, oh, I remember like I couldn't even get on stage at some of these. And now people are like, oh, Chris Mejia is like, it's.
And you're like, I don't even realize that though.
No, it's like, and you don't even think of it as being like it is a big deal. Like that's growth right there. And I've worked with people that are like big names in entertainment. Like, but these people like one-on-one, that hurt. But like that person one-on-one, I was so surprised by how unhappy they were and those feelings were not being met. And it's an internal thing. Like you're trying to fill something up externally.
It's the reason why we look at the negative comments. Like you can get thousands of positive comments,
but that one comment,
that one bad comment, you're like, you know what? Fuck you, man.
Look, you're doing a show to a packed room and everyone is laughing, but the light is perfectly shining on the one dude with the stone face
who happened to have like his car broken into half an hour before the show.
None of this is related to what you're doing.
Nothing to do with you.
But we did this. Okay, clearly I'm not funny. Because like to bring that thing up, I think I learned this in therapy or just somewhere else of realizing we spend so much time chasing after something that when we finally get it, we don't even allow ourselves to celebrate because we then go, well, what's the next thing? And what's the next thing?
And we're I think like that's old and it's not as good.
And like,
my
I think
back hurts.
That's what adds to it, where it's like, I've been trying my best to get better at like taking that step back and acknowledge. Cause like, like for example, when the Comedy Underground was open, I spent so much, like I hosted one night on a Sunday and I'm like, damn, next year I want to at least host 3 times. And then it got to a point where I was being asked to host so much that I was turning some down. Yeah. And I'd even realize in that moment of like, I not only accomplished my goal,
but I should have forwarded this to Lisa. She would have taken off.
You're right. I should have sent it your way. But
and the thing that you initially wanted, you don't even want it anymore. It's crazy.
And same thing. I had a goal of like, I want to feature more. And then now like I'm lucky. I hate saying blessed, but I can't think of a better term. But like, I'm blessed enough that I'm at a point where like I regularly feature, and that's not really something I have to work for right now. And it's like, you gotta have those moments to take a step back and acknowledge the growth you've had, whether it's career wise, whether it's like physical, like if you're someone like I've been, you know, I'm in better shape, and mentally and emotionally of like, oh shit, before, I would just like date someone, and if they just showed me any validation, I would just run into it no matter what the red flags. Whereas like later on, you're like, okay, I'm able to recognize red flags now. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it's more of a decision, like a thought out decision of like, I'm going to see this person, and because they have passed, like I have looked through shit, versus like,
Hey, if you like that video, make sure to hit the subscribe button and follow our page for new weekly content.